Hey Leah, what are we unwrapping today?
Hey, we are unwrapping Alien.
Crinkle, crinkle.
There we go.
Very
There we
nice.
go, Patrick. Thank you. That's right. So Leah watched for the first time Ridley Scott's second feature film, 1979's Alien.
Hmm.
So in the last couple of days when I was sharing with folks that we were going to be talking Alien with more so with this film than with other films, but it pertains to a lot of films that we watched. There's this saying, well, everything has already been said about the movie. And my response has been, yeah, but Leah hasn't heard any of it.
That's true.
Right? All the feedback, all the commentary, all the
Hmm.
rhetoric, all the articles, right? Probably not a one.
No.
So my first question for you, Leah, is
Hmm.
what was your awareness of Alien before you watched the film?
There was no awareness. I mean, I had heard of it. So I actually had seen Prometheus when it came out. I think because I just liked the actors and I was like, I'll see this movie. I didn't understand anything that was going on. And if I did, I forgot it, because this was like several years ago. So I knew that was part of the Alien franchise, but I didn't really understand anything about Alien. And then more recently, because I live with kids now, I got more familiar with it because they love it. So I think I had started watching maybe the one of the sequels and saw a bit of it, but really had no context for it. But yeah, so I just went in blind on this one.
Do you know which sequel you started watching?
Is it Predator? Is that a different one?
Predator
A
Predator's a
different
different
series?
series. They
Okay.
did merge into Alien
Because
versus
isn't
Predator. There
right.
was an
Okay, so
Alien
maybe
versus
yeah.
Predator film in like the summer of 2004, I believe. I gotta look it up now
Okay.
to make sure I
So
did
maybe
that
it
right.
wasn't really part of the
I,
Alien
I saw a double
world.
feature of Alien versus Predator and Garden State in August. I think it was
Okay.
2004. Alien versus Predator. Yeah, 2004. That's right.
Yeah, I remember there'd be something like somebody came out of, well, I mean, this happened in Alien too, but like there was like a stomach that exploded or something very violent happened early on, and I was just done during that one. But there was some relevance to Alien, I think.
For me, Prometheus, the C-section scene is amazing. It's horrifying and it's amazing. Were you captivated by that at all? Or do you think it was horrible?
Wait, what are we talking about? Which scene?
In Prometheus, when you went to see
Oh,
Prometheus, the
I don't
C-section.
remember anything about
Oh, really? Okay.
Prometheus. See, when I watch these kinds of movies, they just like go in and then go out. So I really don't, I have amnesia around it.
Got it. Well, when you say these kinds of movies, here's going to be my thesis for this. Another thing I hear often about Alien is it is a B movie directed like an A film, like an A movie, right?
I
It's like a
like
like B
that.
concept, but directed like an A film. And I can understand the idea of a B concept, though my pushback on that is that the script is brilliant, still consistently brilliant. So when Scott was presented with this script, my thinking is that he saw it wasn't that he's like, oh, I'm gonna, shoot this B movie like an A film. My hope is that he saw what was there. So the story is about how in 1979, about how a corporation is evil and it's only interested in making money. Beyond relevant today. Right. So, so you have that prescient, right? From the get-go. The whole plan was for them to do this thing, for them to literally, these folks were chosen to bring back a specimen from the corporation that intentionally put this android onto this ship as the science officer to make sure this happened. And not only that, but even throughout the film, there's so much, right? Of course, Ripley is considered one of the first, and I'm putting quotes in the air, final girls, which is annoying because she's not a girl, right? She's the heroine and she rules, like is the one of the only person that follows protocol in the film in the beginning to try to prevent the movie from happening. Ripley does a fantastic job working very hard to prevent the movie from happening. And she's unable to because she's thwarted by the captain who is mediocre white male just falling upwards consistently throughout the film, and then the corporation who is foiling her as well. So this is in 1979. All of these things happening in this script, and Scott like highlighting it as well. So all that rules. We could talk more about that later. What was your take when you finally sat down and watched Alien? What was your thought?
So I would say it's probably kind of what I expected, which is a lot of just like ugly monsters, and the kind of unbelievable action stuff. Like I like how you described it, or that people have described it as a B movie made like an A movie, because I think when I look back on it, that may be kind of my takeaway, that the story itself didn't really do anything for me, but I really liked the style and I could appreciate the technicality of what he did. Like I thought it was shot amazingly. The sound was great. Like I really thought about the sound when I was watching it, and the music, or the lack of music, I thought was really impressive, because so often the music is used, sort of as an emotional tool. And I liked that it was very silent at times and all you were hearing were the sound effects. But yeah, there were certain things. I mean, the aliens themselves is just kind of insane. Like I have a hard time suspending disbelief for stuff like that. And some of the reactions from the scientists towards the aliens, I had a hard time with, like, why are you not running away? All that kind of stuff.
Well, he's an android, right? He's his goal is to protect
Well,
the
him,
scientist, right? Is oh
sure.
you mean everyone
Well, I
else?
mean, all the other, yeah, I'm calling them all scientists. I
Got
assumed
it,
that's
got
what
it.
they
They're,
were,
no,
but
they're blue collar workers. They're miners. They're just they're
really,
yeah yeah. So they were all
okay.
so this takes place in the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they are all blue collar workers. They get contracts through the corporation to go into space and mine, and they are
Okay.
expendable. In the beginning, right, they're talking about like payload. I believe the first piece of dialogue is Yaphet's Kodo character.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like right, they all wake up, they're sitting around, they're eating, they think that they're coming out of sleep to go home
Mm-hmm.
from the work that they've done, and except they've been brought off course and they're all eating, and he's basically saying, like, hey, I only get this amount of my shares and I'm entitled to more, right? I want a
Right.
bonus. That's the very first conversation, right? All about bonuses. And
Right.
Dallas, like Tom Skerritt's character, is saying, like, yeah, you get what you contracted. Like, there's no
Right.
negotiation here.
Or the idea that you don't get what you expect until the mission is over. He was like, I'm done. And they're like, well, you're not going to get the money until you go home. And, we finish doing what we're doing.
I
And
So
even
they're
right, and
stuck
then
there.
when they're being rerouted and they realize it, like, no, I'm not doing this, and
Yeah.
the way that they're able to convince them to go, right, you won't get paid if you don't go.
Hmm.
If you go and you find something, you get a piece of it, which the corporation probably, even if they did survive, wouldn't allow them to get a piece of it anyway, profit
Hmm.
from it in any way. I'm sure there'd be some way to squeeze them out of that. But they're in situations where their only options, right, are to do kind of go as they're led.
Hmm.
I mean, this is the future, right? It's basically they know how to run this equipment the same way we might know how to drive a car. I mean, they refer to the Nostromo, right, as a commercial towing vehicle consistently early on. They really want to like hammer this point home that one, these are blue collar workers, kind of like got on a job, right? Almost like, if you're, mining for coal, right? The Nostromo, the spaceship, is in their time consistent with, for us, a commercial towing vehicle. Like they literally refer to it as a commercial towing vehicle. So there's just one scientist. And throughout the film, right, I do like the pacing quite a bit in that the crew outside of the science officer does not want to go to this planet. And they are hand strong, like they must do it, right? Or else they don't get paid. So they decide to go. When they're there, the John Hurt character gets right face hugger, right, comes in, right, they're trying to bring him into the ship, and Ripley refuses to let it happen, but the science officer lets them in, right. Tom
Hmm.
Skerritt wants to break the rules, right, the captain wants to break the rules, and she doesn't allow it to happen, right, won't allow it to happen, is following protocol, keep everyone safe, everyone else safe, and science officer breaks the rules, right, comes in. It is a slow burn, and they don't realize what is happening right until the alien bursts from John Hurt's chest. And actually, when you were watching the film, did you know that was going to happen through like cultural osmosis, or were you wildly
No,
unaware?
not at all. Yeah. I mean, I knew something was going to happen, because obviously he's not going to be fine when this thing was like, around his face, and then it just magically was not. But yeah, I didn't expect that scene to erupt the way it did. So it was fun. I mean, I, appreciated the drama of it.
But Leah, you've been on record on the podcast before talking about how Spaceballs was a strong influence. Did you have a moment
Sure.
when you recognized, oh, it burst out of the chest like the finale of Spaceballs?
It was a very long time ago that I saw Spaceballs, so I don't recollect that specific moment. But now I'm gonna have to watch Spaceballs again
Yeah,
to
you do,
realize
because
that this
that's
is an influence.
I think the best joke in Spaceballs is that
Okay.
the
I thought it
alien
was
burst
just
out.
based
That
on Star Wars.
Oh,
it's based on all space movies. It's got
Oh,
Alien in there.
okay.
John Hurt literally reprises his role. So if I was like a teenager in the theater,
Okay.
I would have loved it. But as a 5-year-old in the theater seeing Spaceballs, it terrified me. Right? I wasn't
you weren't
Oh.
5.
five because
Oh,
we saw it together in the theater,
all right.
and
So
I
then was
know
I was
I was
7. We
probably
were living
five.
in our grandparents' basement, so
Yeah.
we had to be. We this was like
So
second grade for
nothing
me,
was
right?
terrifying in context.
It
Right.
was terrifying. That scene was terrifying. 87. So I was gonna be
I
8.
was five.
Right. Okay.
Hmm.
Right. 5
That's
and 8.
and that very
You
distinctly
were going to be
defines up
5.
for.
I was going to be 8, and I'm pretty sure I started quoting Spaceballs around the house, and Mom said, "This is why he shouldn't see these movies." And then I
Yeah,
knew not to quote the film anymore, so I can go see more movies like that.
yeah, and I think that's a distinction in our personalities. 'Cause I thought that was hysterical because the
Yes.
alien
No. No.
busts
No.
out
No.
of his chest.
It terrified me and gave me nightmares. Even though I knew it was funny for other people. But I mean, now I love the scene in Alien.
Well, but the in Alien and just if Scott's listening, it would have been nice if the alien did a little show tune. That's what
I
happens in
think
Spaceballs.
No,
Okay.
I think the scene that I quoted from Spaceballs around the house, and it's not a house, it's the basement, living in the basement.
That's part of a
I
house.
think I said I quoted Mel Gibson's line where he gets transported, which is Star Trek also.
Mel
And he says,
Gibson.
did I say Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel
Yep.
Brooks.
Like, wait, what movie was he
Saying
in?
Mel
Oh
Gibson was
God.
in it.
When
Wow.
Mel
Oh
Brooks
my
gets
goodness.
Oh,
transported,
wow.
yeah,
What?
when Mel
Wow.
Brooks gets transported, and he says, why didn't somebody tell me my ass is so fat? I think that was what I think that's what I said.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but I can't imagine you said that like in first
I
person. You
didn't.
had to have been
Why
like,
didn't somebody
"Hey,
tell me my ass is this fat? And I probably didn't say ass.
yeah, it's great. That is a great line from that
It
movie."
is. It's
Hmm.
a fantastic
I'll have to
line,
see that
and I
again
can't believe I
soon.
said Mel Gibson instead of Mel Brooks. I apologize, Mel Brooks.
You don't think you said,
You are a hero and a scholar. Mel
yeah, I mean,
Gibson,
Mel
you are
Brooks is
not.
out there fighting Nazis, and
Yes, he is. Right, right, right.
the
And
other
Mel
one I
Gibson
don't
is one.
recall.
Is that? Excuse me. No slander. I am mistaken.
It's all right. I talked over you successfully.
Yeah, there you go.
But one more thing. You didn't quote "I'm surrounded by assholes."
I
Just another
Oh
favorite
no, I don't think I
classic.
said. Maybe I did say that. Maybe I said that too.
Maybe I said that, but I was smart enough to wait into the bathroom to be like, "Oh, I'm surrounded by assholes."
Um, right. So, getting back to the film, right? So Star Wars had to be an influence. Star Wars is an influence on so many. I don't think Scott believed a film like this could be made until he saw Star Wars. And the production design, Star Wars' influence is all over this. And Scott, which I meant to reread and I didn't, Scott wrote the foreword to this fantastic book on The Empire Strikes Back, the making of The Empire Strikes Back, and he specifically wrote the foreword to it. And that comes out a year after Alien, comes out in 80. But the scenes that, not just the way the film is constructed, and I agree with you, Leah, the silence of space is fantastic. But in that first hour, how the personalities are set up and the dynamics are set up as well. And it makes sense to me, right? Even in the end, for Parker, right? Parker wants to kill Yaphet Kotto, wants to kill the alien. He still thinks that he can, right? He only dies because he's trying to protect Veronica Cartwright. And she just wants to get off the ship as well. I think that for the most part, people are acting. The only person that acts foolish, one, Scarrett's character Dallas kind of act like, oh, well, I'm the captain, so I should go searching, right? That kind of thing. That's,
Mhm.
he needed to go. If he had gone earlier, maybe more lives would have been saved.
I was thinking this while watching it. Tom Skerritt, I was like, wow, he looks like a leading man. And then like 30 minutes in, I'm like, I wonder if this movie affected his career as like a leading man status. Because I was
Interesting.
like watching him, I was like, I looked at him and the presence, I was like, oh, I could see him like Ford, I could see him like Kurt Russell. And then like halfway through, I was like, I don't, he's
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question because there's no way he wasn't hired so that we all thought he was the leading man, that he would
Hmm.
survive, right?
Right.
That I don't anticipate people in 79 going in, and if they were going to place bets that Ripley was going to be the one to survive.
Hmm.
yeah.
right? So he is ostensibly the hero, and from very early on, he's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And right, and he dies when he plays the quote unquote like hero role without much logic to it. And then the other person, Harry Dean Stanton, right? He's walking around, he's getting water, he's letting the water fall on his face, right? He's making a bit of noise. He's wondering why the cat won't come to him. I mean, he's just that is the
Yeah.
one I would say that's the one character that you can make the argument that their actions are quite foolish,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
And out of
that's a
touch at
perfect
the moment.
example of what I was saying. It's like sometimes they're just like, oh, yeah, let me drink this water while I know an alien's following me, or let me just like take this extra beat, or let me stare at the alien instead of running away. Like, where I was just like, oh, come on, people, like get with it. It just didn't seem like the greatest writing. Either that or that was just how people reacted in movies back then. Like when I think about it, I guess there was a lot of that like freeze, and then like you just see them getting taken by the predator or whatever it was. This was pretty early on. I mean, maybe it's hard to put this in context, I think, for me sometimes because I don't know what else was being made like it at the time. Like, was this very new? Was this like what was being done before?
No, like it
Yeah.
was, this is unique, right? When it comes
Okay.
out, people were floored, right? And they were floored not just by the design of the alien, they were floored, as you said, by the silence, right, of the film, by the
Hmm.
craft, by who ends up being the hero. There are so many surprises in the film. Ian Holm as an android, right? That this
Yes.
character, like these,
I didn't see that coming. Like that actually surprised me. And I thought that was incredibly shot. Like that whole sequence where he explodes and then that shot of his head on the floor. Like that was kind of beautiful. I was really impressed by that.
yeah,
And just on that like context, watching it this time, I was blown away in the beginning. I was like, I can't believe this was filmed in 1979. I might have been paying more attention to it than I did the last time I saw it was maybe like 15 years ago. And I was like, I can't believe it was filmed in 79. And then I was thinking like Star Wars was 77. Obviously, Star Wars is phenomenal and groundbreaking, but to think like when I watch Star Wars, I'm like, oh, this makes sense that this was 77 because of what it was. But like Alien looks like the beginning scene, the way it's filmed, it just looks like it could have been like filmed today.
Hmm.
And other horror movies around that time, like Halloween was just 1978 to put in like as far as like how people were filming those stall scenes that kind of set up the kill, which I
Hmm.
think was probably intentional and probably based on like how they could with technology have a I don't know.
yeah. I mean, people are making poor choices, right? So the poor choices Scarrett makes, right? It makes sense that he's making those choices to me because he doesn't want his authority interfered with. I mean, that is essentially what it is, right? It doesn't matter that Ripley is being rational and advocating for protocol. It is, I am the authority and you are going to do what I say.
Yeah.
Um, there's that scene with oh, there's a bunch of them. But one in particular, right? The acid, right? So he makes the choice to let them in. Then the acid, right, starts burning, and he gets angry. And he's like, "Stop that acid from burning! You let this thing in." And that was it. That was the line. I'm not remembering it now. When him and Ripley are arguing, as it's starting to go to shit, and she says that she doesn't trust Ash. She says, "Do you know Ash?" And she's trying to make sense of things, and he's giving her nothing. Like he's incapable of doing anything but making decisions and expecting people to follow them without thinking about them. I had this other science officer that I was on 5 missions with, and then this guy just shows up and then like 2 days before this one, I'm assigned this guy, right? And she says, "I don't trust Ash," and his dumbass response is, "I don't trust anyone." And he says it with like bravado. Right?
Hmm.
Why I don't trust anyone. Like what answer, what kind of response is that? Like she is trying to solve a puzzle, to problem solve this, and any response from him just stops the conversation or the thinking or the attempt to problem solve pretty consistently until there's an opportunity for action, that a plan that someone else has, and he goes, "Well, I'm the captain, I'm the one that should do it." And he just exists to die. Like in that scene, it's just he's the captain, so he's taking this up because that's his role. He's owned it up until this point. So now he's gonna, die. And in the first hour, the exchanges between her and him are critical, which speak to, which I think rationalizes the choices he makes for his death. And also the scene with Ripley and Ian Holm, the way that they construct how Holmes thinks. It is not just tactical to get what he wants, but because it's tactical and systematic and intentional, everything he does is intentional to get the results that he wants. He plays like a sociopath. So
Hmm.
Ripley is initially trying to talk with Ash about Kane when he's back. What is this thing? Have you seen anything like this before? He starts pleasant and aloof, and she's not buying it. And she basically says, like, you open the door, you let them in. You're the science officer, you should know better. And he's trying to say, oh, well, I was following an order. And she goes, no, protocol. If the order is outside of protocol, then that doesn't work. You follow the protocol,
Well,
right?
I'm in charge. Right. That's what she said. Like the
Yes, yes,
protocol
she
is like
says, right. She says, I'm in
Hmm.
charge, right?
when
Protocol,
he's
and
out
then
of the
I'm in
ship, I'm in
charge. Yep,
charge.
Right.
Right.
that's right, right. I'm in charge. You follow protocol, and protocols, and I'm in charge, right? When
Hmm.
the captain's outside the ship, and when he's not able to convince her or to sway her, he just simply says, "You do your job, let me do mine," and he says it with hostility.
Hmm.
It's aggressive the way he says it. He's like, "This isn't working, so I'm just going to like a switch, right?
Hmm.
Turn and do this instead." And that is more than clever in the script.
So this movie, a lot of people take like a feminist perspective on it.
Yeah.
What do you, I don't know if anybody picked up on that or thought or had just
You
want to
asking
like,
me?
no, no, yeah. I mean, because I have my own thoughts, but yeah,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
did you?
I think I am aware that that's how people perceive the movie. Like, I know that it's like this is one of the first sort of, female protagonists in an action movie kind of thing, and that she's seen that way. I didn't really feel that when I was watching it. Like, I guess it was new, at the time that she's the last one to survive, because I think most of the time in movies, like the woman is the first one to die. And so I guess that was new. I don't know. I had some problems with the end of the movie. That last scene when she's like in her underwear. I just was like, what? Like,
It's
It's
so
that's a
I just
if I
can't. This is
had
the
if I had
first thing
one
yeah.
if I had one wish, it was just that her underwear were bigger.
Yeah.
That's all. That's like
Well,
it
also,
just
yeah,
bigger.
there's that
Just have there be
one
more of it, please.
shot where that it's like in her back and it's like it's like
Yes.
below her butt crack. And I'm
It's
yeah.
like, who
distracting.
decided to do that? Like somebody was like, wait, let's lower it a little bit. Like it was a whole
Yeah.
thing where I was just like, what? It's so distracting.
And
And then it's shot from like underneath her to the side when she's like in
yes.
that closet. Like
Yes.
all that stuff could have been taken out and it wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have thought anything of it. But I was just like, okay, now I'm mad because this is ridiculous.
It is distracting and it takes away from the film, right? Because if the underwear
Yeah.
were a little bit bigger, right, then it would make
It
a
would
little
be
bit more sense
normal.
as well.
Yeah.
And right, and we wouldn't be thinking about it. Like we
I
wouldn't be
don't, I'm
thinking
sorry.
about it.
I want to know, like, listeners weigh in. Why does Michael keep saying, I wish the underwear was bigger?
Because
I,
it was too
Leah's
small.
he's
agreeing
like,
with
I
me.
know, I get what you're
Leah,
saying, but
the argument isn't right. It's not that have her be wearing pants the whole time,
Yeah.
right? It makes like if they wanted to do that, fine, but just not like that.
Yes. Also,
because
I'm all for like nudity. Like, I don't care about that stuff. It's the way that it's shot. It's like
yeah,
somebody
no, I know.
made a decision to be like, let's shoot it this way. Let's push her underwear down so you see her butt crack. It's like, this is
Yeah.
unnecessary.
The
No, I
argument is that it
100%
is
agree with you.
distracting, right? That is the primary
Yeah.
argument. I agree with Leah. It is distracting when she's leaning over, as Leah says. I know like this time, every time. And then the scene where she's hiding with the
Mm-hmm.
suits and it's low, it is
Yes.
distracting. And the scene is so intense and fantastic. I don't want to be taken out of the film.
Right. It's just
This is
those two
going back. This
shots.
is going back
That's
to the
it.
brutalist. This is going back to the brutalist and the distraction of the brutalist that I was talking about
Hmm.
early in
Interesting.
the film, which I don't want to rehash or relive, but I'm
I
bringing it
just
up.
the phrasing is all I'm saying. It's just feedback. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying, but I wish the underwear was bigger. It's just like it has this like very
Really paying attention to the underwear because it's so obviously small that we're
yeah,
like, whoa,
but
those are really tiny
honest.
underwear.
So knowing that I've seen that we've all seen, sorry, knowing that Michael and I and Eugene have seen the movie several times and that you were watching it for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I was like thinking while I'm watching it, like I often do with the podcast, like what is Leah thinking? And then I was like in my head, I'm like, this movie is known for having a lot of like feminist analysis around it.
Hmm.
And then I was like, when the underwear scene, I was like, oh, they just lost Leah. Like
Uh-oh.
in my, because it, but it also like, because I had like a shared response. I was like, why? This is
Yeah.
so unnecessary. That's a big spacesuit. You don't need like, you can wear clothes in that spacesuit. Like I wouldn't wear boxer
Yeah.
briefs in it. I would
But
probably
she
wear a
was
comfortable pant.
she was getting undressed to go into cybersleep, right? So she wasn't
Gotcha.
getting
I
undressed to
understand.
go into the
Right.
spacesuit.
Which I get it. I get it. Like she needed to, but it's obvious that they were like, let's have her get undressed now so that we
Right.
can do a whole thing. Like it just felt very purposeful in a sensational way. It didn't feel natural, like she's just getting undressed to go to sleep. Then I wouldn't care. But I don't know.
Right.
I just
I'm with you.
didn't, it
Because
felt off.
for me, and I'm classic prude, um, but like if I'm gonna go into cybersleep and there's like a intrusive alien that like does not respect boundaries, I'm like my naturally I'd be like maybe I'm gonna put on some, pants when I'm going into cybersleep. I'm just
Right.
saying like that.
That's what I
No,
would have
Michael,
done.
you're not,
Or
Michael's
keep
like
my
no, I
clothes
got it.
on just in case there's an alien on the loose.
Because like cybersleep isn't something I'm like, oh, I never get comfortable. Like they knock you out, right? So it's not like a thing like,
I would think so.
yeah.
I don't know.
Yes, they knock you out. I'm trying to
Well,
think in when they all woke up in the beginning when John Hurt woke up first. Was he wearing a t-shirt? Was he wearing what was he wearing?
I don't remember. So I
It was a
actually,
variety. Yeah.
this was the
Okay.
first grievance I had that I brought up to my boyfriend when we talked about the movie because he loves the movie and he didn't watch it during this time. And so I was like, okay, we have to talk about the underwear scene because this is ridiculous. And he was like, she's supposed to be vulnerable. And so not having clothes on means that like that was their way of sort of making her like she's more vulnerable to the alien. What's your take on this? Because I pushed back on that.
Okay. So
But it's
this
possible
is,
that it was intentional.
this is gonna be great. So let's for like the first time I meet your boyfriend to establish some tension. My take on it is like that is like a man's understanding of like a feminist perspective, which is like what the critique of this movie is, that
Hmm.
it's like a male directed, male written
Right. It's like
hot
the
take
male
on
gaze. Like that was like how I
right.
interpret it. It's like this is like the male gaze on her. Like it's not what she would do naturally.
It's not what she would do, and also like introducing it as like she's already vulnerable. They've established so much vulnerability
Right.
already that you don't need to like make that just makes it like, when you're in the theater, you're like, hey, look at those legs. Not me. This is like
Right.
what this is.
Of course not.
And certainly not Michael, because Michael's like, she should be. I like a woman who wears a big underpant.
Wow.
That's exactly
That's
what
going to
I
be
was
the
saying.
opening, the teaser line for this podcast.
Yeah, loop that in.
Oh
Loop that
my
in,
God.
Eugene. You
This
should just
is
say,
Oh,
Eugene,
wow.
make that send that to me so that can be my voice outgoing voicemail.
Oh
yeah,
my
Eugene.
God.
Can I have that so when Michael sends me a text message? That's what it says. I just want to say, this is why I don't share the podcast with people that I know, because
Yeah.
you know,
Well, also not to like, I want to make sure like my boyfriend gets credit. Like he does think this is like a feminist movie. And he's said like since he was a kid, he was like, I love this movie. Like
yeah.
I always saw her as this like, female like hero. And, so like I think that a lot of people do see her that way. I don't know. I just didn't feel it. And also like hot take, I don't really think Sigourney Weaver's the greatest actress. She doesn't really do it for me. So like to me, I was like, I don't really care about you anyway. So like I wasn't rooting for her.
That is
That's
a hot
bold.
take.
That was a hot take. I was
The
Yeah,
1980s Academy would be very upset with you because they
I'm
thought
sorry.
she was quite wonderful.
Has she ever won an Oscar? Not that that
No,
really means anything, but
she was nominated for Aliens, for
oh, was
Gorillas in the
she?
Mist,
Okay.
and I think Working Girl. I think those are her three:
Huh.
Aliens,
which
Gorilla in the Mist, and Working Girl. And two of those were the same year. And I
Oh,
think one
wow.
was like
Okay.
the year before, the year after. Like she had like a hot three, and then that was it. Those are the three nominations.
Okay.
Um, but also she wasn't really seeking those kinds of roles. There's a film that you probably maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, like, and it recently came out again on 4K. I've watched it a couple times in the last few years. She rules in Galaxy Quest, and she was also classically trained. So I who is it? Who's the comedian, Patrick? She used to write for the Daily Show. No, her husband wrote for the Daily Show, and she was a correspondent on the Daily Show. And she was in Last Man on Earth with Will
Samantha
Forte.
Bee?
Kristen Shaw. Kristen
Oh, oh, okay.
Shaw. Kristen Shaw. She tells a great story when she was in acting school, and the teacher said something like, "You're no Sigourney Weaver." Kristen Shaw,
Hmm.
like Sigourney was like dot dot dot. Kristen Shaw found that so puzzling. Like, I don't want to be Sigourney Weaver.
Right.
Like
They're
even if
not
I
really in the same
tried,
lane.
right? So I do like her in this film a lot. I think that I agree with you, Leah, that the scene at the end, those two moments in particular are very frustrating. But I do think that Scott, not just in this film, but in films later as well, that he's a very conscientious filmmaker. And I do also think that he has a gripe against, and I don't want him, he makes a lot of like a Gladiator, right? He makes films, right, that are, for lack of a better word, masculine films, right? Where big, strong men do big, strong things. He definitely makes those films. But I also think he has a chip on his shoulder amongst those with power, and he has a chip on his shoulder, I would argue also against misogyny. And he's conscious of those things from early on in his career. And maybe these films aren't like, he doesn't have to be a perfect filmmaker, right? But I do think that those are constant threads in his films, right? Regardless. Uh,
Mhm.
and and we have that in Alien, in spite of those moments at the end. And again, like throughout the whole film, right? If you didn't have these two men interfering,
Mhm.
one, just a dum dum who is unqualified, yet he is falling upward.
Mhm.
And he just happens to look the part of captain, so he gets to be captain, even though puts everyone's like life at risk. And then you have the more sinister corporate entity who knows exactly what they're doing in putting everyone's life at risk, right? You have these two different kinds of men that she has to navigate while also trying to problem solve just exactly what is going on. And Scared is such a schmuck, right? Because he's scared too, because he goes to see Mother in the middle of the film. He's like, "Hey, what are my chances of survival?"
Right. Oh,
That's not what
mother.
Yeah.
Weaver
I mean,
asks. When Weaver goes to see Mother, when she finally has that chance, he uses it like a magic 8 ball. She again
Hmm.
uses it to problem solve, right?
Right.
She's like, "How do I kill this effing?" No, first he says, "How do I kill this thing?" Right? But she's trying to figure out like what is it the science officer is doing? Tell me what he is doing, right? By asking that question, not how do I kill this thing, like a dum dum,
Yeah.
right? Like she's able to figure out the whole thing, right? Like, so the zombie film, right? You have the traditional zombie movie where the zombie is a problem, right? But the larger problem are the people around you, right? And in Alien, it's no, this perfect creature, this perfect villain is a primary problem. And at the same time, equally primary is the corporation that believes they can control it, right? What would happen if this thing made its way to Earth, right? The whole idea is, right, they're trying to bring it to Earth. Over and over and over again in these films, they want to bring it to Earth. And that would simply be the end of humanity, right? I know that there have been conversations about, well, what would happen when we bring the alien to Earth? It's game over. There's no movie there because humanity will be over. Like this thing destroys worlds. And Prometheus, it does that. Any world that it's on, right? It is destroying that world. You can have something like the Predator, right? Which I know that the boys in your house like dig as well. You can have the Predator be on Earth, right? Because it's a rational being with thought. It is a predator. It's a hunter. That is what it is above all other things, right? There's logic to it. There's rules. One could argue there's a code to the predator, and that's kind of been in some of those films as well. You can get the sense of that, but not for this perfect killing machine where all it does is destroy and multiply for preservation.
Yeah.
yeah, like
Agreed.
capitalism and masculinity.
That's right.
And for a script in 1979, right, and for a director in 79 to be able to see those things, it is so intentional consistently throughout the film what the story is doing and what Scott is doing, that I do think on first watch it's very difficult to see. I didn't catch it all the first time I was watching it, and they do play on the tropes well, and but over time with rewatch I find it to be pretty sophisticated, even with the flaws at the end, with the undies team being too small.
Yeah. I'll give him a pass
And
on
in
that one.
fairness, we were coming out of an era in 1979 of people just standardly wearing underwear that was too small.
I mean,
Okay, well,
well, were
I
they?
don't.
But
Who? Yeah, yeah, back that up.
I,
Yeah, I would need evidence for this. I feel like people were wearing pretty big underwear back then.
Well, I mean, men had
Maybe that
tighty
was
whities,
before
right?
yeah, I
I
was
then.
mean,
gonna say this was
boxers
the
were out of style in the late
yes.
70s, right? I think it
Mm,
was a tighty whitey time for the
Yeah.
fellas,
right.
unfortunately.
I think in general
Okay.
people were wearing shorts that were too small, and I would imagine that they
Okay.
would also have to have
The underwear
underwear
would,
that matched that.
right. That's true. Okay. Well,
There you go, Patrick.
Yeah,
Hunted.
that was your hot
You convinced
take.
Leah. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, but agreed. Yeah, I think some things maybe like went by me watching it for the first time because it's just a lot. And these kind of movies are always a little bit like it takes me a minute to process and kind of like I'm thinking about whether or not I'm buying it while I'm watching it. And so some of the themes, I think it like I have to think about it a little bit more. So yeah, thinking about like the corporation and stuff like that, the more that I'm thinking about that, it does seem a little bit ahead of its time, and that he is like speaking to misogyny, and that's very kind of probably pretty original for big budget movies back then. So yeah, I'll give him a lot of credit for that. I mean, it's not, the movie worked. It just, isn't my favorite kind of movie.
That does not need to be said.
Okay.
And it's completely
No, it does.
understood. And
Yeah.
I wanted to give your boyfriend's argument credence because
Yes.
I too, like Patrick, disagree with the whole, well, she's vulnerable kind of argument. Because like that
Well,
piece,
it's
I don't
appreciated.
necessarily, that's not an argument I would make, but
Mm-hmm.
to make an argument that Scott was going for less
Mm-hmm.
misogynistic themes or even trying to go, he might not call them feminist themes.
Mm-hmm.
He might just be like, I want a heroine.
Yeah.
And these guys are, one's an idiot and one's a sociopath, right? And that's the
Right.
story I want to tell, right? He may not speak to it in that way, but and it's okay for folks to like have those kind of readings into it.
Yeah. And I also think a lot of it isn't that intentional. Like I know that people have become more mindful about things like that now, but then it's not like every man was like, "Oh, let's just exploit this woman." It's just like, "Oh, it's just obvious to be like, well, let's just keep her in her underwear. Like it's good to look at or whatever." So it's not nefarious. It's just that I think we've come away from that a bit. And so seeing that you're like, it just seems very obvious that, it doesn't feel very tasteful, but it is what it is.
If I
I'm not going
could,
to hold it against him.
I definitely think consistent through Scott's filmography is his understanding of like predatory power. And I think like what you see is like
True.
maybe not somebody who's looking to make a statement on sexism or misogyny, but somebody who's just setting in
Hmm.
like Michael, like you were saying, oh, I want this to be like I want to have a heroine. And so how does this all set up where she's constantly being dismissed by these other people who are filled with their ego, their, like entitlement, their power, their use of authority, like all those things that we were talking about Tom Skerritt and like Parker and like their greed, whatever it might be. And then it just kind of unfolded that way.
Here's a question that's a little off. Did I gift you just the Blu-ray or did I gift you the 4K? I thought maybe I might have done 4K on this one, or was it just the Blu-ray?
Or was it the box
Don't
set?
Was the box
know. I
black?
think it may have been, it's like green. I think it had a cover. It may have been like a special edition. I think it was like a special, like it had like a cover to it that you had to take off. And I have to look on it, which I don't have it
They're
Slip
called they're
open
called
cover.
they're
here,
called
but
slip covers.
oh,
Okay.
slip
I
covers.
knew that one.
Excuse
I got
me.
that one right.
It doesn't look like this, does it?
Mm, I don't think that's what the inside looked like.
Okay, so maybe it
It
was the
probably
Blu-ray.
wasn't a 4K. Yeah, it was probably a Blu-ray because it was some time ago
Okay,
that you gave it to me, I think.
all right. Yeah, I was curious about that. I couldn't figure that one out. Okay, and then there is, I mean, even though Harry Dean Stanton, I don't mind the Harry Dean Stanton death. One, it's the first death, like the first actual death by the alien. Up to that point, does that character appear scared for his own life, right? Even when they're like, he's scared
Hmm.
when they're, if there are jumps, right? But he's going and chasing down the cat. He's like, come on, cat. Oh, you silly cat. I like
Jonesy,
yeah,
right? That
Jonesy.
was his
Yep.
name.
There's a
Very important.
whole book. I think a book is called, right? There's a book called Save the Cat about
What?
that some guy wrote this book called Save the Cat. If you Google Save the Cat, it'll come up and it's from Alien, right?
Blake Snyder.
And that you have to like that if that the hero saves the cat, it brings like humanity,
Hmm.
right, to to the character, and
Obviously.
we all wanna, we all like, and then we love the hero, right? Save the Cat, the
Right.
last book on screening and You'll Ever Need by Blake Snyder, right? That's a pretty famous book
Okay.
by this guy, Blake Snyder, about
Hmm.
what you do in a film and the narrative.
Hmm.
It's about structuring a movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, all that to say, so for me, the scenes of the deaths, I liked seeing the alien from behind. I liked how they cut to Jones's face, and you get little pieces of the alien right throughout the film. You get to see it scroll down and rise with the scene with Parker and Veronica Cartwright. You see it standing up for the first time, all that kind of stuff. By the time you get to Aliens, James Cameron, that's his third film, but technically his second film. He did a Corman film that he never finished, it was Piranha 2, that he doesn't claim as his. Then he does Terminator, then he does Aliens. and famously, like most dorks know this, he was speaking to the execs at Fox, and he wrote alien on like a whiteboard, and then he put an S next to it, aliens, and then he made it a dollar sign. And they were just like, here's your budget, go make the movie.
Yeah.
Which is true because that movie's not a horror film. It is an
Mm-hmm.
action film. That is what that
Hmm.
film is. And that really plays on the feminist narrative of Ripley on steroids, right? It's like injecting steroids into that
Hmm.
narrative
It's so fun to
for the
watch.
mid 80s.
Yeah.
And the movie's a blast. It is a blast. Cameron does a fantastic job turning a horror film into an action film. He does it from Alien to Aliens, and then he does it with his own film, Terminator, which is just a straight up horror film, a nightmare horror film, and makes Terminator 2 the greatest action film of all time, right? He
Yeah.
just
Greatest
makes it.
action slash
Hmm.
family film of all time.
I would argue that as well. Yes.
Like every time I watch it, I'm like, how is this is not something that you show a 6-year-old?
And Patrick that Mulaney bit with the with all the stunt doubles, when you were telling me the
Did you watch it?
story, yeah, but when you were telling me the story that they made the t-shirt, I knew something was off. No, he made the t-shirt because I knew that story. He made the t-shirt for them. That's
Yeah.
so typical Cameron.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
said they made the t-shirt. Okay.
I no, I like I just thought it was like a production gift, so I don't know if who
Yeah, I think
specifically.
he gifted it to all of them. So
Yeah.
Leah, sorry. On Terminator 2, Cameron is pretty notorious. Like on the set of The Abyss, he's known to have a temper. He pushed an exec into a water tank. On Terminator 2,
Okay.
he was he was grueling with the stunt team throughout the shoot, and at the end, he gifted them with the t-shirt with everything he said to them negative on the back. And this has come up recently because on Mulaney's show on Netflix, he interviewed all of the stunt doubles from Terminator 2 together, and they
Just
shared that
Okay.
just to
story.
clarify, he did it as like an apology. Like I know I'm in it.
Yes.
Like I know
Okay.
I'm
Yeah, I was
I'm not
wondering
cool.
what the
Yeah,
motive
yeah. Who
was
wasn't
for
like,
that.
look how
Okay.
horrible you guys
Right.
are. It was
No,
like
no, no. He's
like
he's like
I'm
you had to deal with me, right?
Okay.
And I understand that I was not the greatest, so you had to deal with me and
Yeah.
ha ha ha. Like I could poke
yeah.
fun of myself and you guys all rule,
Okay.
right? They talk about him fondly.
Okay. But yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that horror to action because I was going to ask, would you classify this a horror movie? And I guess you just answered that as a yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Because it was pretty gruesome. I mean, there were moments where I was like, ugh, like I didn't want to look at the screen. Like I kind of was like looking through my eyes, which I normally don't do. Like I can manage it, but this was just grotesque. So yeah.
It
Let me
was.
know if I'm wrong on this. Like, but this is like some people put this in like their top 5 all-time horror films, right?
And some people, I don't see what else. Like I
Hmm.
don't see what best it. Period. I mean, nothing in this film is as
Psycho,
scary though.
Halloween,
Nothing in
Jaws.
this film comes close to how horrifying and gross and disgusting and stomach churning it was to watch Dennis Quaid do all that shrimp in the substance.
Good point.
Yep.
That I think
Ugh.
that is the scariest thing I've ever seen on film.
Ugh.
But yeah, I mean, I think you would find on most horror top 10 lists this and Halloween in the top 5.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I've never seen Halloween either, so surprise, surprise.
Halloween rules, as does the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Like these films really, Halloween is in a class of its own as well as far as the slasher film goes, just because of what Carpenter was able to do with so little and how he's able to hold suspense. It gets gory in the end, but it takes a long time to get there, and you're gripping your seat. It's terrifying. Like what you could do with
Hmm.
music and like a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern.
That's what I hear. I was just thinking, like, I guess I had thought they were all scientists. So the more that I'm thinking about it now, in terms of some of the unrealistic responses that they have, maybe that makes sense. Like if you're saying they're untrained people, essentially, although I would think they would still be trained to do this job. Like, for example, when they go in, like they're wearing masks most of the time that they
Mhm.
see I guess the alien that comes in, that's whatever you're calling it, the face
Face hugger.
hugger.
Yeah,
Okay.
Face
face
hugger.
hugger.
Um, but then like something happens in the night, I forget, they go back in without masks, and that's when like the acid is coming out. And I'm thinking like, why are they going in without masks? Like this seems stupid. But is the idea that it is stupid, or is the idea that they just don't know any better?
I think
Because I
at
had a
that
hard time
point,
believing that.
so I know what you're saying. I think that Ian Holm tells them, right? He's the science officer. So the way that I see it is the technology of the moment, right? Someone from 1900 sees me get into a car and start driving around is the equivalent to me seeing one of these guys get into a spaceship and just know the ins and outs of it and even what to
Hmm.
do in space, right? How to put on a suit, how to work the machinery. This is like in this era, all of this is blue collar stuff. The person that is
Okay.
not doing the blue collar work, or the person in quotations, is the science officer traditionally, right? They're the person that you ask these questions to. Is it safe to take off the mask? Right. Is,
Okay.
like that kind of a thing. Right. So my assumption is that they're following Ian Holmes' lead in those times. But initially, they bring him in and then they've got the mask on as they're analyzing, right? And then the
Mm.
next scene, the masks are off. And I believe that's simply because Holmes is saying, like, that is okay. And
Okay.
they are trained to trust what the science officer is telling them.
Right. Okay. All right.
And Ripley's the only one who's like, I don't get this. And how come you don't get this either? Right. Like she's the
Right.
one who's not trusting
Yeah.
because it doesn't make rational sense.
Okay. All right. I'm liking her a bit more as we're talking, but
Yeah, no, there is. I
yeah.
do think there's a argument about her being, an icon. I do support that.
Okay.
But yeah,
I
Michael's
accept it.
laughing at me.
No, not at all. I agree.
Michael's like, of course she's an icon.
Any
Duh.
anything else, Leah?
No, I feel like we've really talked it through. I feel good about this.
So Leah, are you down to rewatch this movie then? Or is this going into the attic?
I mean, I was just thinking that I might have to rewatch it to give it a better chance because now that I feel like I've thought some of this through a bit more, that maybe it's worth a rewatch, but it will be a while before I do that to myself.
I wonder if you just watch like the first like 20 minutes from like the time they wake up to like
Yeah.
the time they get that alert, like just that intro dialogue. That was something that like called out to me this time
Hmm.
because it really set up like the character dynamics.
Yeah. And I was mostly captivated in the beginning, and then it sort of waned, but I think I was still like it's hard with these movies. Sometimes you're getting your bearings in the beginning, like there's so much exposition and so a lot of it's lost. And so I think, yeah, I could do that.
And I mean, a film like this, like, I mean, I have so much more appreciation for repertory screenings these days, right? So like, if there's ever an opportunity to see it on a big screen,
Hmm.
that just rules. There's nothing like that.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, have you ever seen it on a big screen?
Me,
Yeah.
unfortunately, no. I had an opportunity to see Aliens on the big screen on Alien Day. We're actually recording this the day after Alien Day. Alien Day is April 20. That was Monday. Alien Day was
28th?
yesterday.
What
Yeah.
is Alien Day?
What is Alien Day? It's
Yeah.
April 28th.
That the day that Alien came out?
No.
Oh,
So you know how, like, you know what Star Wars Day is, right?
May
Hmm.
4th.
May
Yeah,
4th.
May, right.
Like,
There
may
you
the
go.
4th
Look
be
at
with
that.
you.
I know some
Wow.
Like
Wow.
things.
that
Look at
famous
that.
I
that
mean,
famous line in
yeah, may the
Alien
4th be
when
with you.
yes.
Oh, go ahead. Inhale.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
go on.
it's right. So it's April 24th, and it's it has its meaning
Oh, it's April
from
24th.
yeah, April 26th. I'm sorry, April 26th, right?
Mm.
Because
Okay.
the planet that they go to is LV 426,
Okay. I
426.
see. All right.
So I had an opportunity to see a screening of Aliens with Sigourney Weaver being interviewed afterwards. Those kind of screenings ruled. You'd get a couple of them. The best one I've ever attended, ever. And I drove from Camden to Brooklyn to BAM to see
Hmm.
Alan Rickman introduce the first Die Hard film. And I mean, I
Wow.
stopped teaching and I drove right on down there and I had to teach the next day. I didn't get home till like 3 a.m. I had to be up in like 3 hours. And he was directing a play at BAM and he introduced Die Hard and he told an anecdote that I've never seen in an interview. Like it was like I've never seen this anecdote published.
Do we wait till we watch Die Hard?
To share the anecdote? Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be fantastic.
I don't know if I've gifted Leah Die Hard.
Yeah. Isn't it on the
You
list?
must have.
I must have.
Yeah.
I probably have. Because
We've
Die
been
Hard does
talking
roll.
about this
McTiernan
for probably decades, that
McTiernan
whether it's a
rules.
Christmas movie or not. Is that the one or is that Die Hard
Yeah.
2?
No,
Oh,
that's the one, but I don't care if it's a Christmas
okay.
movie or not. It's just an awesome movie.
I'm pretty sure that you did get that to me. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I did too. We should do Hunt for Red October though before we do Die Hard. I think that would be helpful for Leah because
Okay.
I mean, it's the Hunt for Red October is one of the best movies ever made, and it just
Oh.
watch McTiernan. It's a movie that I
Uh,
think Leah would enjoy quite a bit before she transitions into a McTiernan film. Like Leah's already watched parts of Predator and been like, "What is this?" Right? So McTiernan directed Predator.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so let's give her one
when
that
did Hunt for Red
she can
October come out?
like McTiernan. Was that 88? Hunt for Red October?
Because I've never seen it. This is a
You,
fact.
we saw it in the movie theater.
Thank you
You
for
fell
saying that.
asleep. You fell
I
asleep.
fell asleep. Which Leah, did you hear? And Eugene, looking back, did you hear the judgment in his tone? Because like when we watch, I want to remember this.
90,
Always.
90, not 88, 90. Sorry. So you were older. You were
I was
you
8.
definitely you're
I
in an
was
eight.
8 years
You don't
old,
have to.
falling asleep in the
Connery,
Hunt for Red
He needed
October.
a nap.
Sam Neill's Russian accent would keep. I mean, should keep anyone awake.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, we
Great.
didn't do we didn't do the final. Don't we do like a thing where we go like Eugene's like, yo, wrap it up, guys. Uh
No,
I
he
gotta
said you made a face when he said, "Does this go in the
in
basement
the
or
attic
something?" You made it.
go
You
in the
did. You did
attic.
this one.
You just go
The attic.
back up in
Yeah.
the attic with the bodies. Weird,
Oh, you Eugene,
weird
did
thing
you
for
watch?
Eugene to
I want to
say.
know if Eugene rewatch it. Eugene's a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to the scary films.
I
So did you rewatch it or did you pass?
I don't think I had ever watched it before. I think I had watched something.
What?
I
What?
don't, did I so I watched Aliens like a month and a half ago, I
Yeah.
think.
Aliens rules, right?
Yeah, but I thought that the different movie was Alien. So I don't know what I watched the first time that I watched something that involved Alien.
You thought a different
What?
movie was Alien? Like you watched
Like the
like
one where Sigourney Weaver like fights it off inside like the BattleBot machine that
that's
she has.
holes.
No, that's that's aliens in the battle. That's aliens.
Is that Aliens?
Yes, that's aliens.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I watched Aliens and thought it was Alien. I don't.
There were multiple aliens in Aliens, which is why it's called Aliens.
Well, yeah, I got that part. And then I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like an origin movie for Alien. As I was watching it, I was
Because the
like,
whole time she's talking about how they can't go to the planet and
right,
that they're
right.
idiots for doing it because she has all this information.
Oh,
So then I looked it up as in like the first 10 minutes of that movie, like, oh, there's another movie called Alien.
my God.
I did
So you
I
never actually watched the movie we've been talking about.
Correct. Until
Okay. Oh, you did watch
2
it
hours before the pod started.
tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I
You
rushed
watched it.
home from work to watch it.
Oh no.
so what'd you think?
I thought it was awesome.
Did it scare you?
It was scary. I mean, I knew that there were going to be, some jump scenes here and there, and it was, of course, just like the guy like knocking over something. I was like, yeah, damn it, it's a fake out.
Right.
Um,
I hope
or
you
like
really said that.
Jonesy every time. How many people did Jonesy get killed just by him being
True.
so cute that he had to be saved?
This is
Couldn't believe
good,
it.
a good
Yeah, if they
point.
weren't trying to save Jonesy the whole time, maybe they would have made it out of there alive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was really good. There, like Leah said, there were a couple of times where it's like, really, are they really gonna like do that? Go into like they're all gonna go into the med bay without their masks on and just be like, ha ha ha, ha, this alien, and I
Mhm.
mean, I guess knowing alien culture, you would just be like, this is a really stupid idea. Why would they write this in? But if you had never seen it before, like if it wasn't part of mainstream culture, maybe you just think that it's a very chill alien that just sits on people's
Yeah.
faces and doesn't, do anything else.
And remember, guys, this is pre-pandemic.
Yes. I had to remind myself of that. It's like, okay, pre-pandemic. Right. People didn't really wear masks.
Right.
They were like, eh.
Yeah, it's fine.
Scientists just never protected themselves before the pandemic.
There you go. There you go.
And that is a wrap on season 1 of Unwrapped Finally. Unwrapped Finally is hosted by Michael Lavalio, Leah Shell, and Patrick Lavalio. Produced by me, Eugene Mock. Got a question or a hot take for the Unwrapped Pod team? Email unwrappedfinallypodcast@gmail.com. Your message could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, give us a follow wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back in the fall.
Patrick, I thought you made a big stink about that you get to do Crinkle Crinkle and you didn't do it.
What?
You made a big stink like, oh, I used to do Crinkle Crinkle and you stole it from me.
Okay. So what had happened is listener feedback, guys. So just so you know, you can Google, you can hit us up at finally unwrapped at
Unwrapped
gmail.com.
finally. Unwrapped finally. What's the name of the get the name of the podcast right. For the three
Oh.
people listening, the name of our podcast
Instagram
is
us.
Unwrapped,
Yeah.
finally.
You can follow us on
Exclamation
TikTok.
point.
Um, Feedback has been that originally I was saying crinkle crinkle, and then Michael just took it. And then when I was like, hey, I think I used to do that, he was like, no, you didn't. And then feedback was, yes, I did do crinkle crinkle. So I don't know who wants to say crinkle crinkle. Hold on one second.
You made us such a big deal over the fact this last week through text that you used to do crinkle crinkle. I almost wore my Guthrie shirt
Oh
today.
no,
Um,
I know that in today's world, the truth is a big deal. So thank you.
all right. So anyway, are you crinkle crinkling it or no?
So look, should we take another running start?
All this stays in, Eugene.
Should we do a second take?
Second take.
I feel like my line reading is very like game show hosts. I don't know
Well,
if I need to
also,
be more natural.
and not, I would not, first of all, Leah, don't change the thing. Perfect.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Don't you think?
Eugene did sound
All
like,
of this, Eugene, all this should go at the back of the podcast, like at the end after we're done. Whatever music you use after you say this has been a Eugene Muck production, like then you can put all then just throw all this at the back end of the podcast, and then we can start clean, and then people can hear about Patrick complaining at
based
the
on
end.
these notes, it should be, this is a Eugene Monk production, wink, wink.
Monk, his last name isn't Monk. There's no N in there, right?
But well, that was what one of
Oh
his, was
no.
the thing, there's interviewing, um, uh, uh, what did you, unwrapping, like introducing the unwrapped, what is it? What's the line? Oh, I'm gonna stop now. Edit it up, clean it up. Sorry, my apologies.
All right, Eugene, let's take it from the top.
Oh, really? We're not going to do that? We're not leaving all this in?
No, we're leaving it in, but that's part of it. People are going to be so surprised that all of this was scripted.